Okay, this is our week 4 mental challenge. This is on consequences part 2. Now, really quickly, I want to recap. What does consequence mean, right? Again, a lot of kids hear the word consequence and they think, oh, it's when you get in trouble, right? That's only part of it. Consequence just means the result of. If you do this, this happens. What happens is the consequence, right? So if you do really good in martial arts, you do really good in class and you're paying attention and you're listening, the consequence is you earn your new belt, right? That's a good consequence. So consequences aren't good, they're not bad. And again, this is really, really important. When we get in trouble, a lot of times we'll get mad at our parents or we'll get mad at the teacher, right? That punished us. But it's not the teacher, it's not the parents that are in control of our consequences. We are. We choose our consequences. We choose, should we do this thing or not do this thing? If we do this thing and get in trouble, well, we chose that, right? So we're in control of our consequences. That is a really, really big thing for people to understand, right? Now, what I want to talk about is this. I've had some kids tell me, well, sometimes though it's hard to not get in trouble. Sometimes you're going to get in trouble. It's going to happen, right? So I've had kids say, yeah, but how do I not get in trouble? How do I pick the good consequences? So something I want to talk about is called self-regulation. And this is kind of a complex thing, but this is really, really important. And this is going to help us with our consequences. And later on in our black belt program, we're going to be talking about self-regulation throughout it because this is a really, really big thing. But I want to give you a story here. So I had 2 students that were doing a belt test. And both of them were testing, I think it was around green belt level. Both students were great kids, but they were best friends. And so because they were best friends, they would talk to each other. And they'd have fun, obviously, okay? But they were doing this during a belt test, okay? So during the belt test, when they came up, they were doing their kicks, and they were doing their hand strikes, and they were doing their blocks, and they were doing their footwork, and they were doing awesome. But then they would sit down, and then other kids would come up to do their belt test, and they'd start talking, and they weren't supposed to talk. And so I'd have to tell them, hey guys, quiet, be respectful of the other students. And they'd stop, and then they start talking again. And they kept doing that. And so also because they were talking so much, they weren't listening to me. So at one point I said, okay guys, your turn. They didn't hear me because they were talking. Guys, come on, let's go. They just still didn't hear me. Guys, last chance, let's go. Stand up, go. This is your belt test, pay attention. And so they finally ran out there, okay? They kept doing that throughout the entire belt test. Well, physically, they were doing fantastic. They were doing enough physically to be able to pass the test. The problem was mentally. They were not having black belt focus. They were not listening. They were not being respectful of other students. They couldn't have that black belt focus, and that was really important. That is a big part of the test. It's not just about our physical abilities, it's about our mental abilities. So after the test, I pulled them aside, and I talked to them. I said, okay guys, how do you feel that you did? And they said, not very well. And I was like, so again, physically you did great. Your kicks were awesome. Your hand strikes were great. Mentally, did you guys have black belt focus? And they said, no. I'm like, what happened? I said, well, we kept getting distracted. Why were you getting distracted? Because we kept talking to each other. Yeah, that's exactly it, okay? So here's the thing. You're not passing this belt test, but you can belt test again in 2 days. When you belt test again, what can you do to make sure you succeed? What can you do to get a good consequence? You just had a bad consequence. Bad consequence is you're not going to pass this test. You can do the belt test again in 2 days, and if you do really well and have black belt focus, what will the consequence be? We'll get our new belt. Okay, so how can you make sure that you have a good consequence, not a bad consequence? I want you guys to do something called self-regulation. Okay, so what is something you guys could do? Next belt test in 2 days, when you guys are here, you guys are talking to each other, you're best friends, you hang out a lot, you want to play together, you have fun together, but during a belt test, should you be talking? No. Should you be focusing on what I'm saying? Yes. You should be watching the other students, you should be respectful of the other students. So what could you do to make sure you don't talk to each other? To make sure you can have black belt focus? And they looked at each other, and they said, maybe if we didn't sit together. Yeah, that could be. What if you're sitting here and you're sitting over here? If you're far apart, are you going to talk to each other? I said, no. Will it be easier to focus? Yeah, okay. So in 2 days when you do your belt test, I know you guys are best friends. I want you to have fun together. I want you to be able to talk to each other, but not during a belt test. During a belt test, you need to be focused. After the belt test, when you guys pass the belt test, then I want you to go out and have fun, hang out, do whatever you want, that's fine. During the belt test, we need to have black belt focus. So I want you to use self-regulation. And the next belt test, 2 days from then, they did awesome. They did amazing. They made sure they first sat down together and then they looked at each other and they looked and they went over, they sat farther apart. And now they were able to sit down perfectly. They were able to listen, they were able to focus, they were able to pay attention, they didn't get distracted, they did the belt test and they did awesome. And they passed their belt test. So self-regulation is where we think ahead and we say, okay, I want to have a good consequence. How can I put myself in that position where I will have a good consequence? Okay, so think about this. If you have a brother or a sister, have they ever made you mad? Yes, a brother or sister will make you mad at some point, okay? If you don't have a brother or sister, have you ever been playing with a friend at school, or maybe just somebody at school, and maybe that person is making you mad, okay? That's happened. All of us, we've been in a situation where somebody else has made us mad, okay? Here's the thing. If that person keeps making us mad, us mad, we might finally erupt and get really angry, maybe push the other person down. Would we get in trouble for that? Yes. Okay? So if we see that this person's making me mad, if they keep making me mad, I know I'm probably going to get in trouble. How could I self-regulate? What could I do? If this person's making me mad and I don't want to get in trouble, what could I do? I could leave. I don't have to stay there. Right? If your brother or sister is making you mad, maybe you're in the living room and you guys are playing and your brother's making you mad, your sister's making you mad, whatever, and you start fighting a little bit and your mom and dad says, stop fighting or you're gonna get in trouble. What could you do? How could you self-regulate? Go in your bedroom. Go outside. Go to a different place and play farther away from them. You're not gonna get in trouble. You're not gonna keep fighting with them if you're separated from them, right? If you're at school on the playground and somebody's making you really mad, leave, go away, go do something else. Sometimes we don't want to do something else. Sometimes we want to keep playing that thing. But if we realize, if I stay here, I might get in trouble. If I stay here, I might pick the wrong choice and I might have a bad consequence. So I'm going to self-regulate and put myself in a situation where I don't have a bad consequence, right? That's a really, really important thing to think about. So we're going to be talking about this later on because there's a lot of things we can do. How do we put ourselves in a position for success? How do we put ourselves in a position where we're going to succeed, where we're going to have a good consequence, not a bad consequence? Okay, so that's the thing to think about. Great job this week, guys. Keep doing your workout, your weekly challenges. That's awesome. I'll talk to you guys soon.